G'day guys, I'm going to do something a little bit different this time and start at the end just to show you guys what the plan is today. So here's the game as it is right now. In the previous video we made this little menu so we can go click and get a list of structures. And you can see I've got one here which is the wall. And what we're going to do today is make it so when we press that, first of all we get a little ghost of the wall we're going to build. And if you click it, you'll see down the bottom here it says placing a wall order at the following and gives the position. So I haven't actually done the orders yet. That's going to be the next thing. So we'll create a task to go and build that. Today we're just sort of doing this. So I can click to do one, but also if I click and drag, I can do a whole row of orders. And if I go down, it'll go down, left, left. So that's what we're doing now. We can go build, 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 and right click to cancel. So that's the plan. All right, so let's roll things back and get started. Okay, continuing straight on from the previous video now, what I'm going to do first is I'm not going to keep my UI here in my game. I'm going to split that off now, which I probably should have done at the start. We'll just right click, save branch as scene, and I'll just call that UI. And there, now that's safely separate. So if we fiddle with this now, we can fiddle with it separately. So now what we want to do is go back to our game. And I've actually created this new little tile set. And I'll show it to you in a moment. What I'll do is I'll grab the terrain, grab the tile set, and this is going to be my construction tile set. Yes, make tiles, and you can see it's pretty simple. I've just put the side walls, the middle wall, the other side walls. There's going to be a bit more to it if you're familiar with how this would actually work. A single wall is actually going to have edges like this and like that. And then when you build two, it'll automatically work out which one to put there. So there's a wall object and it gets redrawn depending on what's surrounding it. We're not thinking about that today. We're just going to be drawing this wall here. So it's going to look a bit ugly, but the sort of side matching, that'll be handled later. So what I need to do first is just create a prototype. Let's call it a construction object. So we've got items. It's not going to be exactly that. So let's make a new folder. Let's call it constructions. And I'll create a new one. And let's create a scene. And it's just going to be a basic node. And we're going to call it wall. Let's add a script to that. And it only needs to know a few things. And the first thing is going to be its tile map index, which is going to be a vector to I. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to jump to the UI, which has got nothing yet. And I'm going to add quickly an enum. And that enum will be the placing mode. And I'm going to have a few modes. It's going to be single, let's see, row, and rectangle. And what I'm doing is, since there's going to be a whole list of different items you can construct and build, some you can only place one at a time, some you can put in a row, some when you drag it, it will draw a rectangle. This will enable me to say, all right, this guy here, I need to actually make sure we also class name UI, so we can call this from outside. So I'll go back to my wall, and now we go export var placing mode, and that's going to be UI.placing mode type. And that's all I want to have for now. We're not going to add any other behaviors. I just need to know this stuff right now. So this wall, if I click here, I can now say, all right, for the tile map index, we go back to this guy. We go back to our terrain, and you can see it's number X1, Y0. And it's going to know it's a construction because it's in my list of construction things, and that's always going to be on layer 2. Or sorry, not layer 2. This is the tile set 2. Well, 0, 1 is the second one, is number 1. We count from 0. We all know that. All right, so go back to my wall. Oh, yes. So now we go back to the wall here, and we can choose here, X1, Y0, and placing mode is going to be row. All right, so that's my first one. It's in my list. We're going to go to our item manager. And just like we have a list of item prototypes, we're going to go structure prototypes. And we'll just copy and paste. So whatever we do for load item prototypes will be the same for load structure prototypes. And so there's going to be TSCN files again, but this time it's in the constructions folder. And make sure we add it to the structure prototypes. I realize I've been messing up structure and constructions. Let's call them all constructions. Construction prototypes. Let's call this one construction prototypes. And I think I could call it one or the other, but let's keep it the same. Okay, so that should load all my construction prototypes. Let's just make sure nothing breaks when I do that. So it's loaded all my items. Constructions. Copy path. Oh, I didn't actually call it load constructions prototypes. There we go. All right, and it's loaded my walls. Good. So now that we have a real list, we're going to go back to our architect panel, which is after we click architect, we get the list of buttons. So we go to our architect panel, and right now you can see I'm just got a fake list here. What we need to do is instead of that, we're going to grab our list from, I think I've already got a link to it here. No, we're going to need a link to the item manager. I think does the UI have a link to the item manager? No, let's put one here. Already item manager, oops, var item manager equals, and let's go back to game, and we can grab the link to the item manager like that. Because you can see here's the UI, we go one level up with the dot dot, and then we go down to the item manager. So now my architect panel can go UI, which is how he grabs his boss, dot item manager, dot, and the list is my construction. Let's give that a go. So now when I click my button for structures, I should get an error. Oh, I see. So I'm giving it, it still thinks it's a text. So I think what we can do is we can just call get path, if I remember correctly. Let's give that a go. Okay, that's giving me the whole path. Now what I want to do is just grab that little wall out. So what I'll do, I might make a little script just to pass that out. I won't put it here. Let's put it in the item manager. I think we'll be doing that sort of thing most commonly. So that's going to be a static function, so we can grab it from anywhere. And let's just call it path to name, and we give it a path. And it's going to return, oops, a string, and it's also going to receive a string. Okay, so let's see, path equals path, and we're going to split it by those brackets. So what it'll do, it'll grab all the single brackets out. So let me go back here, you can see, it'll grab the brackets out, and then I'll grab the last one. So what we've just done is we're going to split it into basically res, constructions, and wall.tscn. So that'll be an array, and we just need to grab this last one, wall.tscn. And so to do that, we'll just go path equals path, and we just grab, because path is an array now after I did the split, just the length of path minus 1. We'll grab us the last one. And then we just need to take that .tscn off. So we just go path equals path.replace .tscn. So if there's a tscn there, we'll replace it with an empty string. And then we'll just return that path. Okay, not sure what that was all about. So path to name is the trick. And so we'll get the path, and then we'll go item manager dot path to name. So we grab the path from the file, And then we go to item manager and get the path to name, transfer path to name. Translate path to name is what I want to say. And there we go. Now it just says wall. And when we click it, nothing happens. So if you don't recall what we've done here, this part creates those list of constructible buttons. What we need to do now is make that button do something. So it's going to be button.connect. So we're going to link the pressed on it, and we'll run, let's run on button pressed buildable, and we'll bind to that buildable. We've got the on button press function up here. We'll make a new one, and it's going to take the buildable, and that will get passed on. And what we'll just do with that is once we push that button, we'll send a message to the main UI, begin placing that buildable. So this has done its job now. It's let you select the buildable you want to put down. We now pass it on to the UI to do that job. And let's just put that into the UI. Buildable, and let's just make sure it's working. Buildable dot get path. All right, let's see how that works. Yeah, so build that guy. Now just remembered we need to actually put this menu away after we press that button. So let's do that too. Should we do it in the architect or should we do it in the UI? So when we begin placing something, we close that menu. Yeah, let's do it from here. I need to have more centralized control, I think. So let's just have close menus. And what we'll do is to be quite simple. For child in get children, we will just go child.close menus. Okay, so every one will get its own close menus thing because each one sort of closes itself a little bit differently, which is not the best design for me, but let's do it anyway. So when this one closes itself, first it's going to go self.set visible to false, so it's made it self invisible. And it needs to make its own panel. It's only got a panel, so let's make that one invisible. So for child in get children, if the child is a panel, child.set visible false, and then the panel will have all the little constructor guys, and we need to get rid of those. So what I'm saying is, let me show you. So we're talking to this guy right now, this panel, and he's got his own sub panel. And that's the panel child I'm talking about here. But it's going to have a whole list of buttons, which are not done in the same way. I can't just make them invisible. We need to clear them because when you press production, it's going to have a different list. We need to actually delete all these and reload new ones. So what we need to do with those, for the panel, we just set it invisible. But then for each guy in that, so for I in range child dot get child count, and what we'll do is for each of those children, 0.q free. And that's the way to delete something safely. And what we're doing with this loop, we're not starting at 0 and counting up to 10. We're doing the count, but we're always removing number 0. We're basically, we've got our list and we're going 5 times. We're just going delete 0, delete 0, delete 0, delete 0, delete 0. And the reason you do that is because if you're deleting this one, then everything else is moved. So just stay at the start. Otherwise, you sort of go delete 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's a little bit more complicated. This is the way to do it. After we begin placing, let's close the menus and see if that works. So now when I press the wall button, it should print out what we're building and close the menus. Oh yes. So just because this panel, we haven't given it the close thing. Just close menus. And this guy for now can just do nothing. Good. And the button's gone. The button reappears. Good. So that's repeatable. It doesn't break anything. Good. So now we just have to handle the actual drawing of this wall. The main thing we wanted to do today. So the UI is going to do all this from now on. So we've got the placing mode. It'll grab that to know whether it's drawing a single row or a rectangle. But what I want to know, we're going to have a just a UI mode. And so normal is just everything's working as normal. But if we're drawing something, we want to know, are we placing it? So that shows it to tell, that tells it to show one single construction at the mouse position, or else are we currently dragging a construction? So let's go var current UI mode, which of course is the UI mode type, and will be defaulted to UI mode dot normal. We're going to need a link to the terrain, so let's put that on now. Terrain. Now we need to keep a link to the prototype we're currently building, so placing prototype. So we're not actually going to be placing down a bunch of objects like we have in the past. We're just going to have one prototype and we're going to draw to the tile map using that. So it's going to start as null. Now when we click and drag, we're going to need to know where we started from. So var start placing position is going to be a vector2. It's going to just default it to vector2.0. Anything else we need? I think that's it for now. So let's start on it. So we've clicked this, we know what we're placing. The first thing we need to do is go the placing prototype will equal that buildable, and we're going to actually instantiate it, and then we can get the things inside it. And so now let's do our process. And if we're placing, we also need to go current UI mode is now going to be UI mode dot placing. So now what we can do is we can say if current UI mode is UI mode dot placing, what should we be doing? We should draw the prototype at the cursor. So let's make that. And the way we do that is we just go terrain.setCell. Now we need to tell it which layer. So let's go back to our terrain. And right now, for the layers, we've only got the one base layer. So let's add a layer. And so my plan was to have one for the basic terrain, one for the constructions, the sort of fixed objects that go on top of the terrain. So let's just call them base. Let's call this built stuff. I might change that later. And then this one will be the construction ghosts. So 012 is going to be my construction ghosts. So we're on layer number 012. The position we want, so we need to get, this is going on the terrain, so we need to actually go on the mouse position. So let's make a little quick function for that. Get mouse position to terrain position. Now we already did this in our terrain, but I'm going to just quickly do it again here because it's really quite simple. It's just var x equals get parent, get global mouse position dot x, and we divide it by 16, which is our width. For y, we do the same thing, and then we just return a vector 2i xy. So now that's going to be the position. Now the next number is the tile set we go. And so it's not the 0th one, it's the 1th one. Let's just do 1 for now. We'll work out ways to code this in later. It's not great just to put in numbers because I'll forget what they do. And the next is the atlas position, which we can get from the placing prototype dot. If we go back to our wall, It's called the tile map index. Okay, so now when I'm in UI mode, it should always be drawing the prototype at the cursor. Let's see if that works. It is not working. Let's just try it layer 1 for now. Just as I try and work out what I've done wrong. Just try 0, 0. Okay, so it is actually drawing it. The problem is with my layer. So let's go back to layer number 2 and see if I can draw that grass. So we're drawing on layer number 2, but we're drawing from the first tile set, and that's working. Okay, so the problem is actually in my tile set. So this should be tile set number 1. Going back to our tile set, terrain. So should we tile set number 1? Hold on, ID 2. Oh, interesting. I've probably done something dumb somewhere. This one's ID 2, so cool. Let's call it that. ID 2. And like I said, we should not be hard coding these. We'll program in something better later. There we go. Now we are placing a wall. But I'm just drawing. What I need to do is, as we move, is delete the previous one, which is easy enough. What we're going to do is we could try and remember the previous one we did, but we're doing it the simpler way. We're just going to go terrain.clear layer number 2. So everything on that ghost layer, we clear. And there we go. Good, so now we've got a placing one, and we should just make that slightly invisible. And the way we'll do that is we'll just go terrain.set layer modulate, and the layer we're going to talk to is number 2, and we're just going to set its color to red, green, blue maximum, but then for the alpha, let's make it 0.4, I think. So we just set that once and we start placing, and that should make it a little bit more than half invisible. There we go. That looks much more like a placing object. All right, so now what we need to do is make the click and the drag and the click and release. And I also need to right click cancel. All right, let's do that. So what we'll do in our process, if we're drawing, we'll also say if we click again, so if input.is action just pressed, and we've already defined a click, we'll record where the mouse is right now. So start placing position equals our get mouse position, and we will change the UI mode. Now I've done that before. What I'm thinking is I'll just make a little method for doing that, just in case we need to change a few things at once. So func change UI mode, and then new mode, just call it mode, and it's the type UI mode. And then what we'll do is that. So here when we go, we'll go change UI mode. Yeah, I like that a bit more. And so this will now change it from placing to dragging. And so now, if our current mode is dragging, how will it change? What we'll do is we won't draw the prototypes at cursor. We'll draw the prototype in line. And let's figure that out now. Func draw, why am I typing that out? Prototype in line. Okay, now this one's a bit tricky. So we know where we start. We also need to know where the mouse is now. So let's just record that now, because I don't want to have this. So basically, it's this huge long thing like that. So let's just save it as mouse pulse. So now I can type that a bit smaller. And I need to know because we're only drawing a line horizontal or a line vertical based on which one's longer. So we need to know which one's longer, horizontal or vertical. So let's get the difference between the start position and the end position, or the current position on X. And it's just going to be, let's see, it's an absolute number. We should go mouse pos.x and start placing pos.x. So that'll give us the difference there. And we'll do the same thing for the Y. And we'll just see which one of those is bigger. So we just go if diff x is greater than diff y, then we're going to be drawing left to right or horizontal. And so let's see. I go for I in range, and the range will just be mouse, well, start pos dot x to mouse pos dot x. But sometimes that'll be reversed. So what I'll do is I'll just go range equals range, and yes, it'll be this one. But if the start position is to the left, we'll go mouse pos.x is less than start placing pos.x. Then we will do this range, but we'll iterate it by -1 because the default is 1. So that will do it in reverse. And what we'll do is here we will cycle through that range. So now it knows the difference between right and left. Now what we need to do, we've got the range of all the positions from here to there or here to there. We just need to draw the pictures. And so that will be pretty much this one here. Not the mouse position, it will be vector 2i, and x will be I, and the y position will be the starting place pos.y. Did I call it starting place pos? Start place, start placing pos. Sorry for everyone who is trying to read that. Now what's wrong with you? Whoops, it's not a comma, that's a minus. Sorry guys. All right, now one more thing, we need to clear everything before we start, just like we do with the single one. All right, let's give that a go. So the horizontal drawing should work now, vertical will not. Click and drag, that's working. Nice, but you see there's one issue, that it's not drawing the 0th one until I'm past it, and it's not drawing my actual position. So what we need to do is just make this range 1 bigger in both directions. Okay, that's working right and left. Still seems to be a problem with the middle, but let's do the vertical first. So vertical will be exactly the same. It'll just be else, and we'll do the same thing again, except it's going to be, of course, all the x's will be y's. We'll start placing x and draw the intervals. Can't see any more x's. Let's try that. Right works, left works, up works, down works. That's it. So you can see now we can draw a line. All right, now what I need to do now is make it so when I release, it finishes. And when I right click, it cancels. So let's quickly add that. So if we're dragging, and if input dot is action just released, then what we'll do is we'll place our construction orders and change the UI mode back to normal. Actually, we won't go straight back to normal. Let's make it so when we release, it just goes back into single mode. All right, we need to create this one. And all this will do for now is print. Now the way we get, right, let's build, and it's placing prototype name and print. And the way we get that list that we've drawn is we can just go terrain dot get used cells, because the only cells we've used on this layer, on layer number 2, are the ones we're drawing. So we can just use that. And then what we need to do is clear the terrain. And actually, I was going to make another function for that, but we just go terrain.clear 2. So that should put us back into single mode. And so we should be able to draw a bunch of walls. Let's give it a try. So draw, we release. Yes. So of course the orders didn't stay because we haven't actually placed that. They're going to go down on a different layer. That will be our next project. But we can draw, release, and you can see it's build wall and it's all set. We've got the list. So we can send that to, I guess, to the item manager or to the task manager, whatever. We can draw, release. So the only thing we need to do now is be able to stop by right mouse button, because we're stuck in here forever right now. So what we'll do, let's just have an always if input.is action just pressed, and let's have one called click cancel. Yeah, click cancel is a good name. So we have right mouse button. Let's assign that now. So project settings, input map, and let's just add a new action, click cancel. Let's put it up the top here. And we'll just assign that to the right mouse button. And so when we do that, what we'll be doing is we will, basically the prototype will become null. We need to clear the layer. We need to change the UI mode back to normal. And I think that's all. This should probably be in a separate method, or a separate function, I should say. But since it's so simple right now, I'll leave it. And then as cancel has to do more, because it's going to cancel everything, we'll make that later. So let's test it. So structure, and I can, oops, wall, and I can draw a wall this way, that way, the other way. And if I right click, it goes away. And then I can do it again. That works. Now I just had to press structure twice. I'm not sure why. But that's working. If I'm drawing and I right click, that works as well. Okay, so aside from this having to be pressed again, I think we're good. We're placing the orders. We'll do the actual orders in the next one. Let's have a quick look and see if we can work out what's happening here. And I'll put this away, staying open. It's in my closing things. So let's see, when I start, I click. When I click the wall, it closes everything. Cancel. When I click architect again and press structure, it's not opening. So what happens when I press structure? On button pressed, open submenu for the button text. So it's in the open submenu. And someone told me this is a bad way to do it, and I agree. If menu equals the current buildable, yes. Oh, it's because we're recording our current buildable, which we may not have to do. But the easy way I can fix that is when we do the close menus, we should current buildable equals, and just default that back to what it was, just an empty string. I've had a bit of feedback on my UI that it wasn't the best way to do it, and I tend to believe that. Right mouse button, click. Yep, opens first go now. Yeah, that was the problem. Okay, so now we know how to place structures. We could easily put in another one. Let's just go to our wall. Let's duplicate this one. And let's just call it other wall, I guess, because we're just quickly testing it. And what I'll do for this guy is let's just make it use the door, which was 1, 1. And let's say this one can only be, oh, we didn't actually set this placing mode thing. But I think most things would be in a row. We might do that later. I'm getting a bit tired now, but let's try this and see now we should have this other wall, which will be a door. So architect, structure, other wall. And yes, we've got a door. And we can place the door just the same. Oh, so that is an issue that we're getting the name for the button from this, but I left this one as well. So this one should also be called, let's call it door, shall we? So we do have to change both. So that may not be the best way. We'll have to think of a better way later. But let's get things going first and we can go back and tweak to our heart's content afterwards. So we've got doors and we've got walls. And the next thing I'll do is actually make it place these orders and a guy can build it and we'll actually have some walls. But I think this ended up being a pretty long one, guys, and it doesn't feel like much happened. So thanks for hanging around. As always, if you've got a couple of extra bucks to throw at me, please do. Yeah, other than that, have a great day, guys, and I will see you next time.